Hello everyone and welcome to that wonderful time of the month again, where we get a new chapter of Record of Ragnarok. This month broke the cycle of us getting a double chapter every 3 months, and I'm fairly certain that's because next month is going to be the end of this fight. Most likely. I have a feeling they would end the fight on a double chapter, especially if they're going to break the pattern in order to do it later than they normally would. So this chapter is pretty hype. I think it's the best fighting chapter of the round. I think chapter 33? Yeah, the one where you have mostly Buddha and Loki's conversation, then you have the 7 lucky gods, Kojiro, Akita, and Gondo show up. I think that's still the best overall chapter of this round, but when it comes to sheer combat, I'm pretty sure this takes the cake. So, starting off, chapter 38, titled The Time of Awakening, we have Shiva and Raiden getting applause from the audience, and Shiva enters his serious mode. The Hindu pantheon starts getting excited, and we see that Shiva is doing exactly what we thought he would do. He's doing a little dance. He's doing a little cha-cha slide, with a lot of after images with his arms. It's very cool. I really love when they do that thing where they're like waving their arms around. So they should technically be moving fast because of the after images, but it looks like they're moving slow. It's like this weird thing, and I really love the way it looks. So Shiva starts doing a dance. And Varna says that that was the dance he used to beat him, which is interesting. We'll see later why he probably used it to beat him, considering Varna is the water god. But if this is Shiva's serious mode and he only used it to beat Varna, I'm wondering, is Varna stronger than he seems? Or did Shiva just get a lot stronger after beating Varna and then didn't need to use his dance? Interesting questions. Anyway, all of the Hindu gods start chanting the beat to this song. And Zeus says that this is Shiva's war dance. It's known as the hidden treasure of Svarga. Svarga, as far as I understand, is just like the kingdom of the gods of India. And apparently Hermes is familiar with this dance, and he says that Shiva used it to bring together the gods of India. So maybe he didn't just use it to beat Varna. I mean, Varna may just be the most important person that he beat using it. I don't know, because Varna is very clearly not the strongest of the gods that they beat. Obviously Rudra is the strongest god that Shiva defeated, but the strongest ones that they beat together were clearly Brahma and Vishnu, so I don't know. Just kind of a weird thing. But anyway, Shiva's doing his little dance, and then he's on the move. He turns it into a fighting style, and boy, is he fucking good. So Shiva is kind of pulling a Poseidon here, and is just leaving after images everywhere, and he is just way too fast for Raiden to deal with, and he starts pummeling the fuck out of him. Raiden is not able to touch him. He increases the muscle in his legs and attempts to do like this backwards handstand kick called the Shishimai, and it can't even touch Shiva. So it's about to hit his head. Shiva moves, and like just after Raiden's feet have gone down through where Shiva's head would have been, he kicks him in the middle of his back. So Shiva was moving so fast that Raiden wasn't even able to complete the movement of kicking him in the head before he was able to counter. I'm going to have a lot to say about Shiva's speed feats in this chapter. I think we're finally getting a good idea of where Shiva stacks up to the other gods that we've seen thus far. And, well, I've been very excited to see that basically before he was even fighting. with him being the head of the Hindu pantheon, and that little scuffle with Zeus before round 2, Shiva is probably one of the characters that we've been most interested to see what he is actually capable of. So most of the chapter is him just wailing on Raiden. I really, really like how you have the audience chanting the beats to the dance, going along with like every move that Shiva does. It's really good stuff. I'm a big fan of it. It does a good job like setting the pace for the combat, which is pretty smart to do on the author's part, considering that Shiva's whole serious fighting technique is a dance that works on a rhythm. So having everyone chanting along to the rhythm really helps with that. And it's so hype that Rudra comes along and he starts singing the beats to the dance as well. It's really cool shit. So Raiden is just getting fucking walloped. He can't do anything. He is powerless. Hermes describes it as him probably thinking that he's being attacked by a countless number of opponents at the same time. And he's also like, Hermes is tapping his foot to the beat and Zeus is dancing. If you recall, it's been a while since we've seen Zeus dancing a bit, but the guy's got some Saturday Night Fever. So it's actually a really cool callback to his intro for round 2. Ares is very intimidated by just how strong Shiva is. I don't know why he's surprised. I guess maybe the Greeks have a lower opinion of the other pantheons. I wouldn't be shocked considering they have fucking Zeus. And they also had Poseidon and Heracles. And we'll see what's up with Apollo. I've actually had, my opinion of Apollo is much greater now than it used to be. I'm actually a lot more excited to see him because I've learned a lot more about him over the last several months. The guy's actually got, like, a lot of different stuff going for him. He was actually pretty significant deity in ancient Greece. So we'll have to see what happens with him, but I'm getting off topic here. Hermes thinks about how he'd love to dance with Shiva as well one day. I guess Hermes really wants the smoke. We already understand that Hermes is a pretty intimidating guy. I mean, he basically gave Ares a look that told him not to fuck with him. I'm not sure if Hermes is going to fight someone at some point, like probably not in one of the main rounds, but we're going to see Hermes fight someone at some point. That seems fairly likely with the way that the author is alluding to him being pretty powerful. But we'll just have to see. Anyway, Gaul's talking about how this looks really bad, and Brunhild tells her to take a closer look at Raiden's arms, which get super big in a move that he calls Mayama. I have to say now, I feel like I should say this now, I'm not the biggest fan in the world of Raiden's ability. I just think it's a little too wacky. Like this whole, like, cartoony, oh, I'm gonna inflate my muscles, like he puts his thumb in his mouth and he blows air into it and his fucking bicep, like, explodes. I'm not the biggest fan of that. Like, it just looks weird in a way that I'm not the biggest fan of. But anyway, Raiden does this Miyama move, essentially create a barrier using his arms. And Shiva starts wailing on it, and after a while, his fists start to produce smoke. And Hermes says that he's burning up. And if you had to guess, it's because his body is becoming superheated and combusting because of the dance. That is some intense cardio if I've ever seen it. The blood that is dried on Shiva's face is evaporating because of the heat. It's really fucking cool. I really, really like when authors play around with the ideas of how the body works, because the body generates heat through movement. So what if someone's moving so fast that their body is literally producing fire? physically impossible for a human to do, but when you have gods and supernatural beings involved, well then, you can do whatever the fuck you want. And apparently this flaming attack rush from Shiva is called Tandava. And as his flaming fists keep striking Raiden's arms, he's burning the flesh. And Raiden is having a hard time, enduring this burning onslaught, which Shiva seems to be very into. Now, eventually, Shiva hooks his left heel on top of Raiden's arms and pushes them down so he can use them as a step to jump up and do like this downward axe kick called Kritivasa. This flaming downward axe kick is very strong. It cuts down Raiden's chest and his face and his left eye and immediately cauterizes the wound. The flesh on the left side of his mouth is cauterized together. So like his mouth, his lips are fucking welded together. It's extremely gruesome. So it seems we've finally gotten to burn victim in terms of the different types of violence that we've seen committed in Record of Ragnarok. So to go through it all, we've had slashing, bone breaking. I forget exactly what that type of bone break is called, where the bone, like, stabs out through the flesh. If someone could remind me in the comments, please do. We've had that. We've had pulverizing, neck breaking, blinding, I guess. I don't know. Adam's eyes didn't explode, but he was, like, gushing blood out of his eye sockets. I guess that one would just be a beating. Then we've got, we had more slashing, but then we had amputation, and, well, he wasn't bisecting him. Sasuke cut him into, like, 4 pieces, so would that be, like, quadrisecting? Whatever, not important. Then we've had stabbing, dislocation of limbs, and impalement. And then we had limb crushing with Raiden crushing Shiva's arm. And now we have, what the fuck do you want me to call this, like 7th degree burns? I don't know how hot something has to be for a wound to instantly cauterize. Like, the moment you cut through it, it immediately cauterizes. Fuck, I don't know, like 1,000 degrees maybe? It means it's really fucking hot. Brunhild and Gaul are shocked by this. Gaul looks much more concerned. I mean, Brunhild is the confident leader figure, so, I mean, it's not too surprising that she would be a little more level-headed with this. Now, Shiva asks him, "Did my dance get you fired up?" And I couldn't help but laugh when I read this line. Shiva, you little fuck, doing puns like that in the middle of this fight. Now, this panel right here, he's like got his hands out, he's got like the little flames coming off of his fingers. This is the nicest panel of Shiva in the entire series. He looks so fucking clean in this. He looks so smooth. This is like peak Shumatsu art. I mean, like, every chapter is peak Record of Ragnarok art because, I mean, the author gets, or the artists get better at drawing every month because, I mean, they're practicing. But, good God, is this a great panel of Shiva. That's going as the thumbnail. Now, we get a bunch of reaction panels with no dialogue, where we have Hindu deities cheering him on. We've got Rudra watching him. We have Ares, Zeus, and Hermes in one panel. We've got Odin watching in his room on a flat screen on another. And then we have Buddha, who seems to be watching on his own in the stadium. I'm very curious as to see who will have as side characters for when Buddha goes up. I don't really know anything about Buddhism itself. The only really significant thing I know involving Buddha is, like, the Journey to the West. Now, if they include shit from Journey to the West, like Sun Wukong, in Buddha's backstory, that would be pretty fucking kino. That would be really cool if they do that. Now, I think having these 3 here in different panels may not be anything. Um, but I think it actually is. There's been a theory going around for a couple months now about how Odin is actually a traitor. Not in the same way Buddha is. And I like this theory. So the idea is that Odin is a traitor and that he wants to do a coup against Zeus and take over the Conference of the Gods. He wants to become the top god. And Ragnarok was done as a way to sort of weaken the other gods who would maybe help Zeus, or weaken Zeus himself. Whereas Buddha actually is interested in saving humanity. So you've got like these three different sides to the same conflict that may result in some sort of like crazy multi-way battle at the end of the series. Like you've got god on god fights every other minute. Really cool shit. I'm very interested to see if that happens, and I'm personally a fan of that theory. Then we've got Loki, Brynhild, and Gaul hanging out, and then we see that Okita and Kondo are hanging out with Kojiro in their room watching it, and I really love that. When Chapter 34 ended and Kojiro went off with them, I was really hoping he would go watch the fight with them, and I'm really glad to see that he is. It's pretty wholesome stuff. Now, while seemingly everyone has given up on Raiden at this point, Raiden does something interesting. He breaks the skin that is fused to the left side of his mouth shut with his own tongue, which is pretty badass. And for the first time in the entire fight, Raiden smiles. And that's the end of the chapter. So, what exactly did this mean? Well, Raiden's not so much of a boring guy out of combat. He seems to thoroughly enjoy eating, fucking, and sleeping in various different orders. But in battle, he's super serious. The guy doesn't even crack a smile, doesn't even really do any jokes. He's probably the most serious fighter we've seen in the entire series so far. And while we kind of understand why, fighting has never been enjoyable for Raiden. I assume it was just like really the only thing the guy could do for a living with how strong he was and how fucked up his body is. But unfortunately for Raiden, as a result, that doesn't make him the most interesting guy in the world to watch fight, especially for a monthly series, which is why a lot of people like Shiva more than Raiden. Like me. I mean, I think the guy's just more entertaining. Fuck me, he used a pun in this chapter. How could you not like the guy? So, what I think's happening here, and we're super totally getting a Raiden backstory next month. I know we kind of got like a little bit of it in chapter 33, but that was like not even 10 pages. So we're definitely going to get like an in-depth backstory for Raiden next month. And what I think's happening here is now Raiden has been freed from the restraints of his body. He's able to fight at full power. And not only that, he is fighting someone who is able to keep up with him and like actually have a real fight with him. And because it's the first time that Raiden's ever been able to do that, it's the first time that he's ever been able to enjoy a fight. Now, as I've mentioned in I think almost all of my reviews as this fight's been going on, is that I've been wondering what the theme of the fight is, because all of the fights have some kind of theme to them. For a while I thought it was like liberation or something, and now I'm not so sure. I think it has to do with something about why you fight, or something like that. Which, I mean, like, all of the fights kind of are. Whatever, this is probably one of the weaker fights in terms of thematics. Probably only not as weak as Thor versus Lubu, which I mean is the weakest of the fights in every regard. Which, once again, we always have to clarify. Thor vs. Lubu is the least good fight in the series. It's still really good. It just doesn't really stack up to the other ones. So we'll have to see. I assume when we get Raiden's backstory, we'll get like a, okay, I understand what's going on. Now, if I had to guess, I'd assume that Raiden is going to finally use some goddamn sumo techniques. Because, I mean, I'm not an expert on sumo, but the guy hasn't used any fucking sumo moves. And his whole shtick is that he's a sumo wrestler, so, like, what the fuck's going on here? So hopefully we'll get some of that stuff. Now, just because Raiden is getting a backstory and he's all confident at the end of this chapter does not mean that he's going to win. Because, I mean, almost all of the fighters who have lost have had some kind of moment like this. Like, you have Lubu getting on the red hair, you have Poseidon slicking his hair back and looking all creepy, and you have Heracles' speech to Jack after he realizes why Jack is evil. And they all still lost, even though they, like, pulled new stuff out to use, and they were all confident. Still lost. So, this doesn't mean that Raiden's going to win. It means he still has a chance. But, me personally, I still got my money on Shiva. Now, how strong is Shiva? Well, this after image and fire stuff is very impressive. I would say he could definitely beat Heracles, and depending on how fast he is, I think he could probably beat Thor. I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me on that. There were a lot of people that disagreed with me ranking Poseidon over Thor, but my logic has always been that speed is a more valuable trait than strength. Because I can hit you 100 times, and as long as you don't hit me one time, I can win. And if I'm fast enough, I can make sure that you never hit me. So, in case of, like, Poseidon, he is way faster than Thor. And a lot of Thor's attacks leave big openings for someone as fast as Poseidon, so he would totally lose. And in theory, Shiva should be faster than Poseidon, because Poseidon was not, like, generating enough heat to light himself on fucking fire. But Shiva hasn't done anything on the level of, like, the 40-day flood, so it's, like, really weird to try and see which one is faster, because based on how, like, the way the body works, Shiva should be moving faster than Poseidon, but he hasn't done, like, some insane speed feat like Poseidon has. I don't know, different laws of physics for different deities, I guess. Fuck if I know. But in terms of speed, from slowest to fastest, I would definitely currently rank it Heracles, Thor, Shiva, Poseidon, and Zeus. And because of that, I would probably say that Shiva is the third strongest god that we have seen fight, and the fourth strongest god that I can make, like, a good guess on, because I could probably guess that Odin is the second strongest, if not actually the strongest, but until we see Odin do something, we can't say he's stronger than Zeus. For the time being, based on his position and his feats, Zeus is the strongest god. But that's really all I have to say about this month's chapter. It was a lot of fun. It was just probably the best chapter of the fight so far, because we've got a lot more complex choreography other than them just sort of, like, punching each other and doing headbutts. So I'm very pleased with that. I'm very excited to see what happens next month with what is hopefully the end of the fight. We'll just have to see. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like and subscribe. I do Record of Ragnarok chapter reviews every month. If you enjoy other series such as Jujutsu Kaisen, Chainsaw Man, and Kengan Omega, I do videos on those series as well, so if you're interested in those, you should definitely check out my channel. If you enjoy discussing Record of Ragnarok with other people, or you just enjoy the content I produce on this channel, I highly suggest you check out my Discord server. I have a link to it on my channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you around.